Everybody, and welcome back to the Thursday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. We are sponsored by Bet365. We'll have a great deal for you a bit later with them joining me, as always, my partner in crime. Wearing some salmon today. Slim Cliffy, how you doing?
Doing good, man. It was a funny game last night. I only watched the first two periods. Thankfully, caught that outburst by the Devils in the second period. New Jersey looks really good. Washington looks really bad, even though they won that game. I'm excited about this 11-game slate tonight. I know you and I have been talking about it throughout the day. You're not as excited about this slate, but the way I look at it is, we'll get to Edmonton later, but Connor McDavid is injured. You have Auston Matthews and Nathan McKinnon on the slate, but on the road. And, if you don't want to play Leon Draisaitl, then there are a lot of high-priced guys that you don't necessarily have to play. Obviously, McKinnon and Matthews always in play, and we'll get to those games. But it just kind of makes the slate a little bit more wide open. And with 22 teams to have a wide open slate where there aren't, there's obviously a couple smash spots. Anytime San Jose's on the slate, whoever's playing them is in a smash spot. But it kind of leaves things a little bbit more wide open, and I like slates like that. But, usually when I get excited about a slate, that's when I put up 70 DK points and I'm out of the running by, 90 minutes into the slate. So we'll see how things go tonight, but I'm kind of stoked. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I don't love the matchups tonight, but, I'm never going to not play a DFS slate. So I'm definitely going to play it. And before we move on, we weren't on yesterday. Oh, let me talk about that Devils game real quick. Devils fans booing the team off the ice at the end of that game. That's just ridiculous.
Hey,
that's going to be the problem all year, though.
Expectations are high.
Yeah, but they're going to have to outscore teams like that to win. You know what I mean? Their goaltending is not very good. Also, love to see Toffoli getting top line minutes. That dude, even when he was on the top line in Calgary, was playing 14, 15, 16 minutes a night. Playing next to Jack Hughes, getting 18, 19, 20 minutes a night, he's going to put up a monster season, which is going to be nice. Not nice that he's on the Devils, but, come May when they're on the golf course, I'll go. That was a great season from Toffoli. Also, we should recap Tuesday a little bit. Our subscribers had a very, very good night. Our medium well stake savant, Oliver Atticus, won the 15 for $20K, and then another sub of ours, Nick PS. I think he finished second through fifth. So in honor of Ollie's win, I got a whole picanha roast from the butcher. I'm going to cook them to rare just in his honor and send him pictures just so he tweaks out a little bit. He is not a fan of seeing red in the steaks, but great night for them.
Yeah, congrats to them. I think it was Ollie in first, and then Nick was second, third, and fourth, and then even Jake slid in seventh or eighth or something like that. So pretty good night for the subscribers. We love to see that. I mean, that, it shows that, certainly the projections and the top stacks and the optimizers and everything are certainly helping. We hope that we can help whether on this show or through our articles or whatever, but it's nice to get a big win like that early in the season, like you had yours fairly early on. It get that little bit of wind beneath your wings to give you a bit of bankroll and some confidence for the next 5 months, I guess, because there's still a lot of hockey left ahead of us. But yeah, congrats to those fellas.
Yeah, always good, especially. Well, it doesn't really matter how you play, MME or single entry. It's nice to get a win out of the way. At least in MME, you can return some of your money unless you have a completely awful night. Me, I've been treading water for the most part after that, but treading water is better than, not cashing for a week straight, which is what is going to happen at some point this season for me. I'm going to go a long stretch where I'm not going to have a cash, and it tests your mental resolve if you're a single entry player, but I love it because the big wins are, they mean much more. And I mean, they obviously mean a lot in MME, but if you're contending, you have a couple hot ones every night, you're always in contention. Me, it's single entry. I could be dead by the end of the first game and I have to come back tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guys like Jake and, played 978 lineups with, his 17 twin brothers and their immaculate jawlines. They usually have some hot ones going almost every night. But again, with the MME, the margins are so thin that, Jake finished in 6th. I don't even know if he made money.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like on a single entry, that'd be a great night. Even like on a 20 max, that'd probably be pretty good. When you're 150 maxing, even having a top 10 probably won't do a lot. But thought I'd just throw it out there. I mean, for the top 5 of the top 10, not a bad night in the $15 for Stochastic members.
Wow, my internet just went absolutely haywire there. But all right, let's get into the slate. But before we do, make sure to give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Helps me out. Jake's schedule and Greg's schedule also help me out a lot too. But if YouTube isn't for you, you can find all of our content over on the Stochastic Podcast channel. Leave us a 5-star review there. Talk about the size of my head. It takes up most of the screen. I'll know who you are then. And don't forget to sign up for the Stochastic Hall of Fame by changing your avatar on DraftKings and FanDuel. You'll get a shout out in our weekly Hall of Fame segment. How to do that? Download the Stochastic avatar from stochastic.com/avatar. Place it in the top 3 of a contest with over 5K contestants, which is now possible on DraftKings and multiple GPPs. You love to see it. You can tweet the win to @StochasticHOF on X, or if you don't have the X machine, email us with your screenshot, and you can win a free month of Stochastic package of your choice. If you're doing it in NHL, I would suggest getting NHL. Any sport is possible, though. You can only win once in a calendar year. Yeah. So let's hop into this 11 gamer. Jake says nothing like getting a top 5 and losing 12%. Yeah, that's the razor thin margins. If you finish 3rd there, you probably make a little bit money. If you win, you have a great night. But you just, your subscribers got you. So now you lose 12%. But
yeah, it's kind of, the student's becoming the master eventually. What's that Star Wars quote? We are what they grow beyond. Well, sorry, Jake. Your subscribers might be growing past you. That's just kind of the way it goes.
You're Morpheus. You can only show them the door, and they ran right through it.
They're probably going to kick down the door regardless. Yeah.
Let's get into the slate here. We're going to kick it off with a doozy. The Anaheim Ducks with a 2.3 total. Heading into Boston, the Bruins have a 3.7 total. Bruins, not the most expensive line on the slate, but their top line is fully correlated, or 22,000. I was going to say fully correlated. 22,000 on DraftKings. I think it's the second most expensive line on the night. They have the highest top 2 stack percentage per our top stacks tool, and they have a bunch of positive leverage. Anytime you can get positive leverage on a line going in, playing, the Ducks or the Sharks or the Canadians or the Blue Jackets, teams like that, you definitely have to strongly consider them. Now, the one thing I will say, there are a ton of mid-range lines that fit together, but there are also a ton of cheap lines in very good spots that can fit with Boston 1 here. I think, you take out price, you have to consider this one of the best spots of the night.
Yeah, it is. And I did write up David Pastrnak for the picks article that I referenced earlier. Free to read up on stochastic.com. Just head on over to the NHL section. And one thing that I brought up in the picks article was just how well David Pastrnak was projecting tonight. I'll bring up our projections real quick. That's the wrong one. Sorry, I forgot to add our screen share, so you have to bear with me here for a second. There we go. One thing I brought up was how far David Pastrnak is ahead of the rest of the field, and these are just the wingers on DK priced over $8,000. He's projected for 4.4 points more than Nikita Kucherov, which is that's grown since this morning, because when I wrote it this morning, it was about an 18% difference. This is over a 25% difference. So obviously there's a lot of steam on Pastrnak. There's a lot of steam on the Bruins. Now, it should be mentioned, Anaheim hasn't really been terrible defensively this year, not at even strength. Nowhere near the team that they were last year. And I think that's an important distinction. This is, at least so far this year, it's not the 22-23 Ducks. what Anaheim's problem is, and that's another thing I mentioned in the article, is all the power plays they're giving up. They're giving up like 5.7 power plays per game to the opponent. That number is going to come down as the season wears on. Those numbers are always higher at the start of the season. But being at the top of power play opportunities given and going into Boston and giving David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand and those guys, 4, 5, 6, 7 power plays, whatever it might end up being, is just absurd. And that's kind of what makes me really like Boston here tonight. It's not that it's a particularly good 5-on-5 matchup, even though it is. It's not a bad one. It's that they might get a ton of power play time here tonight. So, I do like Boston 1. The ownership is high. There are ways, we always talk about it. There are ways to get different. Like, you can add a James Van Riemsdyk. You can make it a full power play stack by adding Charlie McAvoy. You can kind of flirt with danger and leave one of the guys off the even strength stack, like Zach or Marchand or something like that. But Pasternak's a must. Like, he's a guy that I would include in any stack that I make from Boston. So I do like the Bruins. Obviously, for that reason, I don't like the Anaheim top line. Whoever ends up on the top line, both Trevor Zegras and Max Jones were there last game. Two different coaches now, for some reason, really like Max Jones and putting him on the top line, or with Zegras. Like, Zegras played it quite a bit with him last year. I don't know why. That's just kind of the way it goes. What I will mention is Anaheim's second line. Vetrano, Strome, and Mason McTavish. Strome and McTavish are both on the top power play unit. Vetrano has 5 goals in 6 games to start this year, including a hat trick. Boston's second line hasn't been particularly good defensively, which I think you would expect for a line with Morgan Geekie and a rookie, right? 2.7 expected goals against per 60 minutes. That's really not that great. They are fairly expensive is kind of the problem. At least on FanDuel, they're expensive. They're $16,200 on FanDuel. They're $15,300 on DraftKings. That's a lot for a second line going into Boston. So I don't think I'll get there in single entry, but if I'm playing a ton of lineups tonight, I think Anaheim 2 is one of the sneaky lines in this game that I would have to consider.
Yeah. Kicking off the show, recommending 2.3 Ducks on the road going into Boston. Don't expect anything else from us because we love the Ducks.
Yeah, like I said, they're not a line I'm targeting in single entry or anything like that. But if I were playing a ton of lineups tonight, they would be one of those mid-price stacks I would be considering.
I do prefer that Ducks line to the Zegras line as well. Just for whatever it's worth. Again, I won't be getting there in single entry either. Let's move on to the next one. The Seattle Kraken with a 2.6 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.5 total. Sebastian Aho returned last game. It is Aho, Teravainen, and Necas, right?
No, Necas.
Jarvis.
Necas is down on the second line. They have Jarvis on the top line.
Yeah, it's Aho, Jarvis, Teravainen, second line of Bunting, Necas, and Kotkaniemi. Yeah, and I think Svechnikov is going to be back tonight. He practiced on the fourth line, but top power play yesterday. Could be an interesting one-off play there. It's the fourth line. It's just they're not going to break up the stall line. So I would imagine there's going to be a rotating door between Bunting, Teravainen, Svechnikov, and Jarvis on that fourth line all season. But it's not the fourth line. So I'm looking at the top stacks tool here, and I'm seeing not too much ownership here on Carolina. Seattle has been pretty good. Joey Decord has started the season relatively well. It's just with these prices, the top line's in the 16,000s and them not getting a ton of ownership, it's hard not to have them in my mix tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of like Carolina here tonight. What I'll say is I think on FanDuel, if I'm not mistaken, Svechnikov is priced at $3,000. Because he was injured, coming off injury. They have him at that injury price. Svechnikov is I'm just checking it now. He's $3,000 on FanDuel. So
great website.
Yeah. If he's in the lineup at warmups and you're playing on FanDuel, definitely something that you got to consider. If Svechnikov, whether or not Svechnikov plays, as long as the top line is Jarvis, Aho, and Teravainen, that's a line that has been pretty good for Carolina over the last couple of years. 3.6 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 3.5 actual goals for. I thought they might ease Aho back into the lineup, and he played over 21 minutes in the last game. So clearly he's not being eased into anything. It's still worrisome that the forwards really aren't shooting a lot. That's something that I brought up a couple times on the show, as the defensemen are shooting a ton. Now, Carolina defensemen usually shoot a lot anyway, but this season it's like egregiously worse. But they do historically have pretty good numbers together. Seattle's been fine defensively, but not elite. Carolina can generate offense against just about anybody. So I'm with you. Like, I kind of like that Carolina top line. Positive leverage on DraftKings, about coming in at about their top 2 stacks on FanDuel. You get all 3 guys on the top power play unit as well, for what that's worth against the Kraken. So I do like the Carolina top line here in this matchup. They are one of the mid-price stacks that I am considering. I'm not saying I'm playing them for sure, slam dunk guarantee yet, but they are somebody that I'm considering. On the Seattle side, I'm mad I missed Ty Cartier night. He's a guy that we talked about. He's a guy that we talked about on the last show. That would be a good replacement for Jared McCann on that top line, because he is a shooter like Jared McCann is. And, they certainly did well. Not getting a lot of Seattle ownership, which is, at least over on FanDuel, that's a little bit surprising to me, given how poorly the Carolina goaltending has been playing so far this year. I think they're last in the league in save percentage, which is not where you want to be. The Carolina third pair, I was looking at their numbers earlier, not atrocious if you look at one side of the ice. If you look at the other side of the ice, not very good. There is a little bit of ownership coming in on that McCann third line. I do like Beniers, Eberle, and Cartier here again tonight. They're one of those, like, they're still cheap enough because Cartier is so cheap himself. They are cheap enough where you can use them with one of the more expensive stacks. They're going to be running into that Jordan Staal line, though, and that's what worries me. I don't want to play a line against that Jordan Staal line. It's just a brutal matchups. I think I would dip down to Tolvanen and Gordon McCann. We've been saying often, like Yanni Gord is, quote, on the third line, but I think last game he played like 22 minutes or something like that. Like, he is not a third line player by any stretch. Jared McCann is a guy that loves to shoot and is usually a pretty good finisher, even, before last season. I don't mind that McCann, Tolvanen, and Gord line if you need a filler stack. I think I like them in this particular matchup, avoiding the Jordan Staal line against what has been some pretty bad Carolina goaltending. So McCann, Tolvanen, and Gord for me on the Seattle side.
Yeah, Carolina did send down Peter Kochetkov, so I think they have a back-to-back, I think. So I think Freddie Anderson's going to start one of these games, but it could be Ronta tonight, and he hasn't been great. So, yeah, I do. I mean, even if it is Freddie, I still have some interest in Seattle here tonight. Let's move on to the next one. The Winnipeg Jets with a 3.3 total heading into Detroit. The Red Wings have a 3.2 total. Okay. This game is quite a scene here, because on the one side, the Red Wings are at home here. Larkin, DeBrincat, Lucas Raymond getting almost no projected ownership, and this line has been running people over all season. Yeah, DeBrincat shooting like 48% or whatever ridiculous number it is, but they're running people over. Now, on the flip side, there's a little bit of positive leverage on the Winnipeg top line, and I'm surprised that they're not higher in ownership, because as good as Detroit has been offensively, they've been kind of poopers defensively. So I know it's Alex Iafallo, but it's an upgrade from Appleton. It's not Gabriel Velarde. If this was Velarde, Scheifele, Connor, I'd be planting my flag here right now. But that being said, 18,000 against a team that is not great defensively, I think that's fine. And I will say, for the people wanting to dip down to Ehlers, Perfidi, they're over leveraged and they're getting like 13 minutes a night.
I just want to point out the Detroit Red Wings are giving up more shots per minute at even strength than the Buffalo Sabres and the Arizona Coyotes. And I don't think they're necessarily carrying the reputation of not being a very good defensive team right now, and they're really not. And if you look at the line by line breakdown, The top line of Larkin, Raymond, and DeBrincat is their best defensive line at 2.8 expected goals against per 60 minutes, and that's below average. The second line is just atrocious. That Kopp Rasmussen line has just been getting run over all season long. The thing is like the Detroit goaltending has held up reasonably well so far. How long that can keep going is a very good question. And, you know, the third, like once you get to the third, fourth Detroit lines, it's like nothing. So I'm caught here between both top lines because I really do like both top lines here. The Detroit side, namely, because even if they're not great defensively, like you said, they have been running teams over. They're shooting nearly 19% as a line of 5-on-5, which is like, that's way too high. But the thing is half that would be about the league average, and half that with their shot volume would still be 3.6 goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, which is a really, really high offensive number. So even with a lot of regression, they're just generating so much that they could still be a really high scoring line. That's why I still like Detroit 1 here. I mean, going into Winnipeg, going against that top line, it's not like that top line's anything. Like, what are we worried about from the Winnipeg side besides Connor Hellebuck? Like, nothing. Defensively speaking, nothing. So I do like Detroit 1 here. Like, if they're going to come in with sub 1% ownership against a Winnipeg team that's really not that good defensively, like, count me in. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Yeah. Especially a Winnipeg team taking all the penalties that they are. They're at 4.2 power play opportunities given to the opponent per game. That's like sixth most in the league so far this season. If you're going to give this Detroit team a lot of power plays, and you're not really that good defensively to begin with, yes, you completely need Connor Hellebuck to bail you out. And if he doesn't, we've already seen some pretty high-scoring games against the Jets already this season. So I do like Detroit 1. Nothing from the depth for me. If there are guys you might want to one-off, like, go ahead. I just have no interest. The Winnipeg side is kind of the same thing. That Perfidi line's just not getting enough ice time. I do like them in a nutshell here tonight because it is a tremendous matchup for that Perfidi, Nemesnikov, Ehlers line going against the middle six from the Red Wings. The problem is they might play 12 minutes. Like, Nick Ehlers is getting top power play minutes, and he's still only playing 14 or 15 minutes a game. Like, this is truly their third line. Sometimes their fourth line, if you look at the way that they're divvying up the ice time. That's the problem with playing Winnipeg here tonight. It's just, can they get there with 11 minutes is basically what you're asking. And like, they can, because like I said, Detroit's middle six is not very good defensively. I just think I'd rather go to the top line. The guy's getting all the power play minutes. You know, I follow Scheifele, Connor are perfectly correlated. Like I said, I'm not worried about a top line matchup against the Red Wings. I think those lines are just going to end up trading chances back and forth, really. There's a lot more ownership coming in at 7%. I think part of that is because they are perfectly correlated, where Detroit's top line is not. But I think both top lines here are kind of being disrespected. I say that, and it's going to be a 2-1 like dueling goalie contest going to a shootout or something like that. But both top lines have looked good for the most part this season. On the Winnipeg side, Detroit side certainly. Not a lot of ownership on Detroit. I really do like both top lines here. Like, kind of like, you know, if I was forced to pick one, I think I would take Detroit because I want the home team that's coming in at like 1% ownership. But I think both top lines are very much in play here tonight.
Yeah, I see a bunch of people, or a bunch. There's 3 people saying that DeBrincat's been sick. He missed practice yesterday. He was on the ice this morning for morning skate, so he should be good to go. Before we move on, we do have a $20 super chat from Germ6908. Thank you very much. He says, I see me and Josh in the big boy contest tonight. Good luck, playa. I'll be following. I'm going to win that, and if you have something to say about that, I got Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary right here for you. No, but best of luck. Best of luck to you. It's the 555, right? Yeah, it's a 200-man 555. Kind of like that contest. It seemed like they're going to be rolling it out on Thursday nights.
I was going to say, that's the second time this year they've had it, isn't it?
Yeah, they tried it last Thursday with a 300-man field, and it didn't fill. They overshot it a little bit. I think they can fill like 250, but they went with 200 tonight just because there's NFL Showdown. But before I went on the air, most of these GPPs were filling, so should be filling here. Best of luck to you. Sign up using the link in the description box below to get access to the best NHL data and tools in the industry. You get access to me. No, I'm just kidding. You get player and ownership projections, top stacks tools, line combinations, and the most invaluable part is the Discord. In the Discord, I'm always there. Cliffy's always there. Jake and his ridiculously good-looking features are always there. He's not an ambi-turning there. He can't turn left, but you get Haas, and there's a bunch of characters in there. Everyone's friendly. Everyone wants to help you. So click the link in the description box below. Get in to Premium. Hop in the Discord. Say you came from the show. We'll give you a warm welcome. Clayton will give you the rules of the chat, and we'll go from there. Let's move on to the next one. The Colorado Avalanche with a 3.5 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.1 total. Let me pull up these lines here. There we go. So I think it's something ridiculous like the Avs have won 16 straight games on the road. Something like that, dating back to last year. They also destroyed Sorokin the other night, and now they're getting a Pittsburgh team with Yari in net, who hasn't been great. They're not great defensively. McKinnon, Lehkonen, and Nichushkin, the top line at 19-8. They're getting some pretty heavy ownership. The second line, which did a lot of work, Rajo, Mika Rantanen, and Tomas Tatar getting way less ownership. I don't know. I kind of like the Pittsburgh side a little bit more here because they're getting no ownership. I get if you want to play Colorado, and they are definitely on my short list here. I do really like Colorado, but like if you're going to give me a top line Pittsburgh or a second line Pittsburgh, they're combined 3.5% projected ownership. It's hard not to consider them. I know Georgiev's in net. He's been excellent to start the year, but like these are some pretty good offensive players here.
Yeah, I'll bring up the top stacks just to kind of highlight what Josh was saying. You see the top line for the Penguins, 9.6% top 2 percentage on DraftKings, only 2.8% ownership. Lower down on the second line, and it's basically the same thing over on FanDuel. So obviously the top stacks do like Pittsburgh here tonight. I don't get it. Like I always see articles every day about what's wrong with the Pittsburgh Penguins or something like that, and I'm looking at a lot of their numbers, and it's basically the same problem that Pittsburgh's had for like 10 years now. It's that they have like 8, 9 really good players, and then they have 8, 9 really average to bad players. And that's basically all, like the entire problem summed up for the Penguins. Now, this year's a little bit different on the Pittsburgh side. I was noticing this morning, they're drawing the fewest power plays of any team in the league. That's not something that you usually see from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Maybe that turns itself around now, and we're 6 games in. This would be a good chance for them to start drawing some power plays because Colorado is one of the most penalized teams in the NHL, giving up 4.5 power plays to the opponent per game so far this season. Now the penalty kill's been good. But any team getting 5 power plays, they're basically going to average 1 goal every 5 power plays. So if Pittsburgh can get that, they're off to a good start. The Pittsburgh top line's also been good offensively so far this season. 3.5 expected goals for, 77 shot attempts per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 in their 75 minutes together. The weird thing is that Jake Gensel's shooting the least out of the 3 of them. Like Crosby and Rust are shooting more than Gensel is, which is not something you usually see. Now, Gensel came into the season injured. He missed some time in training camp, all that. So maybe he just needs to get up to speed. But not a bad spot for Pittsburgh here tonight, I don't think. Like Colorado, their top line, as presently constituted, going back to last year, McKinnon, Lehkonen, Nichushkin line, 2.8 expected goals against, 3.3 actual goals against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. Those are not good defensive numbers. Now, I would have to assume some of that is with, defensemen missing on the blue line, and right now they have their full complement of defensemen. That should help quite a bit. But Pittsburgh's been generating offense pretty much at will this year, their top line anyway. The power play has struggled. I think that's one thing that might keep me away from the Penguins is like the power play's been like average at best, and they're not drawing a lot. Yeah,
they were
and
bad all last year too.
Yeah, and they're not drawing a lot of power plays either. So that's kind of the one thing that's keeping me tempered a little bit on Pittsburgh. But if I was 20 maxing, 50 lineups, whatever, I would make sure to have some Penguins somewhere because, all they need is 4 or 5 power plays, maybe get lucky on a couple of them, and they're off to the races for a great night. The Colorado side is where things get pretty interesting. Thomas Tatar's, I know he's listed on the second line. He played their last game. I think he only got 11 minutes, though. This is still a team that will lean really heavily on a handful of forwards. I would probably just play the Colorado top line. They're coming in with a lot of ownership, 14%, but also coming in nearly 18% by the top stacks on DraftKings here tonight. So I think Colorado won, certainly in play. I'm looking at these two top lines. They're basically the same price. Colorado won $19,008. Pittsburgh won $20K. Colorado's coming in with nearly 14% ownership, and Pittsburgh's coming in at around 3%, and Pittsburgh's the home team. I get the ice time difference, and I obviously Colorado's the better team as well. I don't want to kind of gloss over that, but I don't think it's enough of a gap to justify completely avoiding Pittsburgh here tonight. So I think I would probably prefer to play the Pittsburgh side here. The way I'm building my lineups, I don't know if I'm going to have stacks out of this game, but I think between the two top lines, I'd be more inclined to play Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Colorado's a better team, but the better team doesn't always win in DFS. You know what I mean? So I would take the home team at lower ownership here tonight for sure. Or if you just want a power play stack, the Avs, you can do that as well. I think Rantanen is a nice little one-off here tonight as well.
Yeah.
How many times can I say as well in the same segment? Let's move on to the next one. The San Jose Sharks. Oh, God.
I think you're missing one game. You're missing the Montreal game.
Oh, yeah. I completely glossed over that one, huh? Let's, I didn't even want to talk about it, so I just...
I mean, I don't either, but we have to.
I pulled it up, and then I just went to the ad read instead. That's how much I love that game tonight. Let's talk about that game. We have the Columbus Blue Jackets with a 3.2 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 3.3 total. Every single line in this game has negative leverage. Every single person should blindly bet the over. No, that's not financial advice, but there are going to be goals in this game. Now, the top line for Columbus, Boone Jenner, Johnny Gaudreau, Jack Roslovic, 16,200 negative leverage. Top line for Montreal, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Josh Anderson, even more negative leverage. Second line for Montreal, Monahan, Pearson, Gallagher, even more negative leverage than those last two lines. And then Fantilli, Texier, Emil Benstrom, they're under 10K on DraftKings. They are, compared to their ownership, just wildly overowned. Now, we're all on Fantilli tonight. We're all Fantilli fanboys. And if you're a Ducks fan, earmuffs. If this was any other year without Connor Bedard, Fantilli should have went number one, I think. I'm not an expert on that, but he probably would have. Would have loved to have Fantilli the year the Rangers won the number one pick. But yeah, he's super cheap. That line is super cheap. I feel like Fantilli is going to be popular. I'm more apt to one off a popular cheap player than a 30% Matthews, something like that. So I think it's fine. But I don't know, man. There are a lot of lines to like in this game. There are going to be some goals. It's just, you got to know that these guys are going to have some ownership tonight.
Yeah, I'll highlight that in the top stacks. That Fantilli Texier Benstrom line, $9,800 on DK, 0.5% top two stacks, 6% ownership. Yeah, the ownership is going to be through the roof here tonight. I do like the Columbus side here. It pains me to say that as a Montreal fan. I actually do like that second line as well. What I'll say is that I kind of like a power play stack here, I think, on the Columbus side. I did write up Adam Fantilli in that picks article that I alluded to earlier, or that I mentioned earlier. I didn't allude to it. He's on that second line, and they're going to be going up a fair bit against Montreal's own second line, Newhook, Harvey Pinard, and Slafkovsky. Now, Slafkovsky and Newhook have actually looked pretty good offensively, even without Kirby Dach in the lineup since Kirby Dach got injured. defensively, it's been pretty horrific. Like,
it's evergreen when talking about the Canadiens.
Yeah, it's fire wagon hockey at its finest. Missed defensive assignments, bad pitches, those kinds of things. Going up against this Montreal second line is a really good matchup for Fantilli, Texier, and Bemstrom. And the thing is Fantilli and Texier have been playing pretty well together this season. Obviously, small sample alert. We're looking at about 55 minutes, but 81 shot attempts per 60 and 55 minutes played is pretty damn impressive. I think a lot of that was against Minnesota's top line, actually, which is just crazy to think about. But that's what kind of makes me want to include Fantilli in a power play stack here, obviously, because he's on the top power play unit as well. But Montreal is the second most penalized team in the NHL behind Anaheim that we talked about earlier. 5.5 power play opportunities given up to the opponent. You have Justin Danforth down on the third line, who's probably going to be skating on that top power play unit as well. So you have guys across 3 even strength lines on the top power play unit playing against the team giving up the most power plays. So even, yes, there is a lot of ownership on Columbus here tonight relative to their top 2 stack percentage. There are ways to get different. So, Gaudreau, Jenner, and Fantilli, go with double center, add Danforth, Fantilli, and Gaudreau, like something like that. Like, I think there are ways to get pretty different. I really do like the Columbus spot here. On the Montreal side, I would probably just kind of choke the chalk on the top line. But Montreal 3 is also something that you kind of have to consider because you have both Pearson and Monahan on the top power play unit. And the line has been playing reasonably well as a third line together. So probably that Montreal line that I like best, the Pearson line. But I think in this game, it's the Columbus power play guys that I like the most. And I just have a bad feeling about that game tonight. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, like Jenner, Gaudreau, Fantilli, Danforth, Werenski, especially Werenski on FanDuel, where he's still only 4,800. Really love those guys tonight.
Yeah, and one last point on Fantilli, and then we move on. I promise to talk about the Sharks. When Laine was in the lineup, Fantilli was playing 13, 14, 15 minutes. The 2 games without Laine, he's played 19 in both. So he's seeing ice time now. So keep that in mind. San Jose Sharks. We are a team with a 2.5 total heading into Tampa Bay. The Lightning have a 3.9 total. Looking at this, right, Alex, your boy, he was your boy. He might be creeping back into your boy territory. Alex Barry-Boulet up with the Nikita Kucherov in point. He actually hasn't looked too bad recently. They're 19-5. They have positive leverage. There's not much ownership here. The second line's a little bit over leveraged, but I'm completely fine with the Tampa ownership here going against San Jose. I think you can power play stack. I think there's all different types of things you can do with the Sharks. And then we get to the Sharks top line here. Hurdle, Duclair, LeBanc. Oh, man. If this was like last year and Couture was in the lineup, I'd be like, let's lock and load because it's Jonas Johansson and Tampa hasn't been great defensively. I still might lock and load. At least they're on the East Coast, and by like 8 p.m. I might be just dead when I load Sharks into my lineup. But I don't mind the Hurdle, Duclair, LeBanc line. Yeah,
I mean, they're going to be going up. Again, like we talk about it like all the time, like Tampa is kind of one of those teams that's been overrated defensively. I still think they're overrated defensively right now. Like they're giving up the second most shots per minute at even strength so far this season. I kid you not, this Tampa Bay team so far this season is giving up more shots per minute at even strength than this San Jose team, which feels impossible to even conceive, but it's true. And that's why when, like we were talking about playing Sharks earlier, I thought everybody was kind of playing a joke on me. But once I started thinking about it a little bit more, it does kind of make sense. Like, I think LeBanc is moving to the top power play unit as well, along with his move to the top line. So, you're getting some correlation with Hurdle and those guys. So I don't mind them as a filler stack, I guess. Like there are way worse filler stacks that people will be playing tonight that will not be getting 18, 19, 20 plus minutes like this San Jose line has been getting. So yeah, I agree with you. I think they're playable. I don't think I'm going to be the one that's going to be playing them, but Godspeed to the people that are. It's Tampa 1 that I love here. They're still, like, even with Barre Boulette, they're still generating a lot, 71 shot attempts per 60 minutes. They're not scoring a ton, but they're shooting under 7%. And, a point Kucherov line is not going to keep shooting under 7% for very long. So I do like that Tampa Bay top line. I even talked about Braden Point in my picks article. Again, free to read up on Stokastic.com. He's shooting under 6% this year, and he had 4 of his last 5 years, he shot at least 17.5%. Like, he's a high percentage shooter. Playing with Kucherov certainly helps. Obviously, 21 minutes a night, he's eventually going to start filling the net. San Jose in town feels like a decent spot to start doing that. I really do like Tampa 1 here tonight. Like, one of the reasons why I don't really want to play Pittsburgh here tonight is that you can play Tampa 1 instead. It's basically twice the ownership, but still in single digits, and on an 11-game slate, that's perfectly fine to me. So I really do like the Tampa top line in this matchup, obviously.
Yeah, I would imagine their ownership creeps up in the next few runs, but nothing to the point where it's going to be like, oh, they're going to be 30%. I shouldn't play them. You know what I mean? Ottawa Senators with a 3 total heading into Long Island. We know what that's like. The Islanders have a 3.1 total. The Ottawa top line, most expensive on the board tonight, 22,900. They're getting almost no ownership. I think they're a decently contrarian, goodly. I'm making up words now. I think they're a decent contrarian option on DraftKings tonight. Like, Sorokin in the past few games hasn't really looked great, and the Islanders are taking more penalties than normal. I don't know if that trend continues. It just, if you're going to give me Ottawa top line with Stützle, Tkachuk, Giroux, fully correlated, yada, 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 I think if I was 150 maxing, I'd be way over the field on them. In one lineup, there's just way too much stuff that I like more to get to, them in this matchup at 22.9. But if I'm 20 maxing 150, I'd be over the field. I'm more interested here in the Horvat Barzal Lee line, 15,300. They have a little bit of negative leverage, but like, the Senators suck defensively. So like, I kind of like the Islanders here. The Islanders gave the Avs a run for their money, at least offensively. You want to go to the Nelson line? Fine. I'm just going to go to the Horvat Barzal Lee line here.
Yeah. To your point about that Ottawa top line, they're at 3.8 expected goals, 3.9 actual goals per 60 minutes so far this season. Like, they've just been really tearing apart the competition, and they're still not shooting a lot. Like, high percentage, I should say. 8.4% is not high at all. And now we don't expect a Brady Tkachuk line to really have a high percentage conversion rate. Anyways, 8.4% is low, and it kind of shows just how much they could be scoring if they ever get to like that 10, 11% range, like a lot of other top lines do. So not a bad matchup against the Islanders either. Like, it is a bad matchup. Like, I think every Islanders or every team kind of just goes through a bad stretch. Goalies go through bad stretches, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I suspect, I don't imagine Ilya Sorokin is going to keep sucking the way that he has for the rest of the season. But it's not a brutal matchup going up against, like, the Islanders use their third and fourth lines at times in shutdown matchups, and you got Oliver Wahlstrom and Simon Holmstrom next to Pajot on that third line. I don't think that's really a brutal matchup for Ottawa's top line. The Islanders are a team that typically don't, one, they don't draw a lot of power plays. The other one, they don't take a lot of penalties either. Like, they're in the bottom 10 of the league for power play opportunities given to the opponent. Ottawa does make a lot of hay on the power play. Now, the Islanders' power play penalty kill has certainly looked bad so far this season. But they led the league in penalty kill save percentage last year, and I think they're last so far this year. So you got to think that's going to regress a little bit, maybe a lot. So I think I'm with you. Like, if I was playing a ton of lineups, I would definitely have some Ottawa 1 here tonight in single entry. I just don't think I'm going to get. It's the most expensive line on the road against Sorokin. Like, I just can't do that, especially where they might not get a lot of power play time. It is the Islanders side that I do like better here. Horvat, Lee, and Barzal is what stood out to me. What stood out to me more than anything about the Islanders is that in a small sample so far this year, that top line, it's at 67 shot attempts per 60 minutes, which is really high, especially for an Islanders line. But Lee and Horvat had basically the same numbers last year after Barzal got hurt. So it's up to a 300-minute sample of just generating a lot. Problem, 3.2 expected goals per 60 minutes is really, really good for an offensive line. The problem is just finishing, as it always is with the Islanders. But all it takes is just one game where the goals, 3 inches to the left instead of 3 inches to the right, and they have a slate breaking night. So
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Man, I walked right into that one. And going up against that Ottawa Ottawa second and third lines, there's really just not a lot to be worried about. I'm not worried about Josh Norris and Drake Batherson. They're underwater by shot shares so far this year. Grigg and Tarasenko have been fine, but they don't get a lot of top line matchups, and they might get some here tonight. I don't think that's really going to be good for them. So I think my favorite line in this game, even if they are a little bit overowned, is that Horvat Barzal Lee line.
I concur. Let's move on to the next one, the Minnesota Wild with a 3.1 total heading into the city of the brotherly shove. The Flyers have a 2.9 total. Okay. The Wild just scored 98 goals. I know that the Flyers have been pretty good defensively. They like to slow down the pace, yada, yada, yada. I still want to play Minnesota 1 here at this ownership. They're getting positive leverage per their top 2 stack. Yeah, they're going to see Couturier, and Hart has been pretty good this season. But if you're going to give me them at 6.7 projected ownership, the Flyers are still not a very good team. They're definitely improved from last year. Don't get me wrong. That's what's going to happen when you send Tony DeAngelo away. You add in Sean Couturier, a healthy Sean Couturier. You have, Cam York, who's getting absolutely obliterated by Torts in the media today. But I kind of like this Minnesota top line here.
Yeah, I'll bring up our top stacks again real quick just to highlight what you're saying. Top 2 stack percentage here, 12.2% on DraftKings, 6.7% ownership. Another one of those lines right around 20K, like the Pittsburgh line that we talked about, like the Tampa Bay line, that are all coming in single-digit ownership. That's kind of the issue, right? Is when you have a bunch of lines that are all really good, you can't play them all. And my issue with this is that I kind of like the Flyers a little bit more, and it sucks because the Flyers do have negative leverage on their top line. Their top line looks like it's going to be overowned a little bit, and the reason it's going to be overowned is their price. It's $13,600 for the Flyers top line, which it shouldn't be that cheap. I know it is the Flyers, but it shouldn't be that cheap. This Minnesota top line is getting throttled at 5-on-5. There's just no other way to put it. 3 expected goals against per 60 minutes, 5.5 actual goals against. They missed Jared Spurgeon. There's just no way around it. There's nobody on that blue line that can play a shutdown. Faber and Brodin are fine, but Brodin's not the defenseman that he was 4 or 5, even 3 years ago. His play has certainly fallen off over the years. That's why they've been leaning on Spurgeon a little bit more. Minnesota top line has not been good defensively. I think that Philly top line is definitely going to get the run and play while they're out there. Now, power plays. Philly power plays usually not very good. This season's no exception, but they're just so cheap at $13,600 that you can fit them in with those other $19,000 lines that we talked about, like Tampa Bay, like Pittsburgh, like Colorado, so on and so forth. So if they come in at 6, 7, 8%, and I put them with another line that's 6, 7, 8%, then I don't care if they're overowned. And we have seen Minnesota's just been one of the worst defensive teams in the league so far this season. And I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. I'm saying that because they have the 3rd most expected goals against per 60 minutes of any team in the league at 5-on-5 this year. Worse than Montreal, and people are running out to load up on the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. I think Philly's in kind of a similar spot. Until I see Minnesota improve, I don't know why we should think they're a good team. They're missing their second best forward, maybe third, depending what you think of Eriksson at, because Matt Boldy's out. They're missing by far their best defenseman, and they've been getting run over every single game. The only games that they're winning are ones where their goalies stand on their head or where they score like 6 goals. I'm in on the Flyers here tonight. If you want to turn it to a power play stack, add Bobby Brink, add Travis Konechny, and take off Tippett or something like that, go ahead. But Tippett's shooting the puck a lot. He's also in that picks article. I think it pains me to say it, but I think it's a Flyers night for me tonight.
All right. You know what?
I don't know, man. Like, maybe we should almost do like some sort of wager where I get like a handicap number because the Flyers are 13,600 as opposed to the more expensive Minnesota line. But I think this Philly line is in a better spot, especially where they're at home.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just from a price. It's a price thing for me, like to go Flyers. Like, yeah, like I don't love stacking against a Couturier line, but it's not like I think they're both like if you can get the Wild top line coming off a massive game at 6%, I think they're a fine plays as well.
Should also note that line with Brink, Farabee, and Cates has been pretty good since they've been put together. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last necessarily, but they've been dominating the play, and Brink's still on the top power play. I think Bobby Brink played like 19 minutes in the last game. I thought Forrester would be the rookie to break out and not Brink, but Brink has been playing pretty well, and Cates looks like the defensive guy that he's supposed to be. So maybe one of those filler stacks to think about.
Yeah, Bobby Brink, the most Philly name ever to Philly. Let's get to the next one here. Oh, but before we do, as we mentioned off the top, we are sponsored by Bet365. And if you deposit $10 and bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets. If you're in Kentucky, you can deposit $10 and bet $1 and get $365 in bonus bets. That deal is ending this week. So if you are in Kentucky or near Kentucky, I would completely take advantage of that. Other states available are Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Colorado. You have to be 21 plus. Unless you're in Kentucky, you have to be 18. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Bet365 also available in Canada, but they are not giving you that deal. Let's see about that. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 2.9 total. Heading into Dallas, the Stars have a 3.1 total. Toronto going Matthews, Marner, Yarncroc, Nylander, Tavares, Bertuzzi, and then Knees, Domi, Kampf. Dallas top line remains the same. Then Duchesne, Sagan, and Dadonov, and then Ben, Wyatt Johnson, Ty Dellandrea. Now, this is an interesting game because there's almost no ownership here, right? And Ottinger is out tonight. I would have to imagine that in the next run, like the ownership in the Leafs is going to come up. Like anytime you can get the Leafs top line under 5%, it absolutely just horrifies me because they have slate breaking powers anytime they take the ice. Will they do it? I don't know. But at 5%, I'm willing to find out. Now, I did not look at the matchups in this game, and I should have. So I'm going to, give you an alley-oop here. I am interested in the Dallas lines, either the Duchesne line or the Ben line, that is going to see the bottom six of Toronto, because we've talked ad nauseum since the Engvall trade how bad the bottom six for Toronto has been.
Yeah, we have, and that's pretty much persisted this year. Like they've definitely gotten some good games from, especially Noah Gregor. I don't know why they keep scratching Fraser Minton. I don't think he's worse than David Kampf. I think it's the fact that they gave David Kampf an extension is why Kampf is still in the lineup. Yeah, Dallas's top line will be going out against Toronto's top line. That's a pretty tough matchup for both sides, honestly. They're both lines that typically dominate the play. It might be a little bit worse for Toronto. Obviously, they're on the road, and then you get matched up against Miro Heiskanen. There's not a defenseman like Miro Heiskanen on the Toronto side, but again, the problem with Dallas is their ice time. Like we brought it up the last show, and I think the show before that, like they're actually, since Hintz returned, that top line is scoring 4.3 goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, which is a little bit higher than they had done in the previous couple seasons when they were one of the most efficient teams in the league, or one of the most efficient lines in the league. Sorry. They're just not getting ice time. Jason Robertson is the only guy on the top line in the top 5 forwards on the Dallas team by even strength ice time per game. Like, they're just not getting the time. Now, Joseph Woll in net kind of throws me off a little bit too, because he's been playing better so far to start the season. He wasn't that bad last year. He's had pretty good AHL numbers the last couple of years. Ilya Samsonov looked like an absolute horror show in his first couple of games of the season. So I think it's a little bit of a tougher goalie matchup. The other problem is Toronto doesn't take a lot of penalties. And for this Dallas top line to really get there, I think they need to get there at least with some help from the power play. And I don't know if they're going to get that tonight with Toronto not taking penalties and with Joseph Woll in net. So I don't mind Dallas necessarily in this spot. But I think I'm with you. I think it's the Toronto side I would like a little bit better. Like Calle Yarncroc there is the thing that kills me. He just doesn't belong on the top line. The thing is they have to put him there because they have to try to balance out the rest of the lines. That's just it. Like if they had their choice, Calle Yarncroc would definitely not be on the top line with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. Like, I'm sorry.
Fraser there.
Yeah. They just have to put somebody there, logistically speaking. And they have to keep guys in the bottom 6 that can actually kind of skate. So the top line doesn't really have good numbers with Yarncroc. Not numbers that they have with other guys. 3.1 expected goals, 3.5 actual goals scored. Mitch Marner, his shot attempts per minute are a career low. Honestly, I think it's the Toronto second line I like best here. William Nylander's up over 20 minutes a game. John Tavares is up over 18 minutes a game. They add Tyler Bertuzzi, who's a really good dual threat guy. The Wyatt Johnston line has not been very good defensively to start this season. They'll probably be all right in the long term, but as long as they're struggling, I'm hoping I can take advantage of it. Plus Scott Wedgwood in net. Dallas is also another team that doesn't take a lot of penalties, so I think this is about 5-on-5 play. Of anything in this game, I think it's Toronto 2 I like the best, but I'm going to be honest, I think I'm looking elsewhere for my stacks.
That's fair. Are you looking to the Blues? Let's get to them. The St. Louis Blues. That was awful. St. Louis Blues with a 2.7 total heading into Calgary. The Flames have a 3.4 total somehow. Somehow they have a 3.4 total. Oh, boy. This game is a mess. There isn't much ownership here other than the Backlund, Mangiapane, Coleman line. For good measure, they're 13-7. They're going to go out against St. Louis 1. Which is still Kyrou, Thomas, and Saad. I don't know what to do with the Flames because I'm kind of in the camp that I have to wait to see it before I start playing them. But at that point, I'm probably going to be waiting until next year. But, this is a really, really good matchup. It's just the Blues don't take a ton of penalties, so I'll probably just 5-on-5 stack here with the Backlund line, but they're the highest owned line. Do you like anything on the Blue side?
I kind of want to play that Kyrou Thomas Saad line. Problem is they've not been playing well since Brandon Saad got there. Like, they won one game. I think that's kind of why they're staying together. It's like, oh man, we got a game. The problem is they're not shooting. As a team, they're at 45.3 shot attempts per 60 minutes, which if it holds up would be like the 7th worst mark in the last 15 years. And the worst mark in the last 6 seasons or something like that. So they're just not generating anything. Like, it would be Kyrou, Thomas, and Saad. But they're going into that Backlund line, which is just absolutely throttling teams. So I'm with you. It's the Calgary side I like here. It's that Backlund line that I like the most, especially because, like you said, the Blues don't take a lot of penalty. 31st in the league by time shorthanded so far this season. Problem is Backlund, Mangiapane, Coleman's coming in a little bit overowned. But it really doesn't matter for me. They're kind of like that Philly line where I believe in the spot enough where I think that they can get there, especially even if St. Louis doesn't take a lot of penalties. Like, if you want to leave Mangiapane or Coleman off, just make it a 2-man stack. I think that's fine. But I think Backlund played the most of all their centers in their last game. If not It was the second most. They're not a true like second or third line. They'll get top line minutes at times, especially in games where they don't get a lot of power play time. So Backlund, Mangiapane, and Coleman off to another great start this season. 88 shot attempts per 60 minutes in their time together. Like, it's a power play when they're out there. That's basically what it is. If they had a little bit of better finish, they would be literally one of the best lines in the league. So Backlund, Mangiapane, Coleman for me in this game. Probably nothing from the Blues forwards.
Yeah.
Also, should mention before we came on, or while we were on the air, Jacob Brown is getting scratched for the Blues, and they're going 11-7. So it's going to mess up their forward lines quite a bit. And that's just another reason why, like, if you want to one-off Jordan Kyrou or something like that, I think it's fine. I'm just not stacking St. Louis.
New York Rangers. My New York Rangers. With a 3.3 total heading into Edmonton, the Oilers have a 3.1 total. No McDavid. Edmonton running back Draisaitl, Kane, Matthias Janmark, Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Warren Fogle. Status quo for the Rangers as well. I don't know, man. Like, if you want to go back to Edmonton, that's fine. Like, I just don't want to play Draisaitl, Kane, Janmark. Like, it's just not a line at 17-6 that I really want to play. I know Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins, Fogle had a pretty good game. Like, that would probably be the line I'd full stack. Going up against the Rangers' second line of Hedel, Panarin, and Lafreniere, as good as they are offensively, Hedel, Panarin, and Lafreniere lacking defensively, we'll say. For me, my favorite line in this game is the Rangers' top line, and they're not getting much ownership, and it's one of those things where, like, am I being a homer? Am I missing something? But I really like them tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just not even going to bother with Edmonton until Connor McDavid gets back. I just have no interest in that team. Like, maybe in a different matchup, I would. Facing this Rangers team, the penalty kill turned itself around after I think a tough start in the first couple of games. The 5-on-5 lines have generally been pretty good. There's nothing on Edmonton that I want to play. It is Rangers 1. I did write them up in the picks article as well earlier today. The big reason why is power play time. The Oilers are over, I think they're right at 4 times shorthanded per game, which means they're giving up 4 power plays per game to the opponent. The Rangers power play has certainly looked really good to start the year. I think Chris Kreider has 3 goals on the power play already. So I'm with you. I do like the Rangers top line getting hopefully all that power play time against Edmonton. The Edmonton goaltending has looked really bad. Like, it's kind of like that Carolina goaltending where even if Edmonton's sort of playing well defensively, their goaltending is just not, and that's what makes them not a team to be feared in DFS. Add in like 4 to 5 power plays against per game. Yeah, I'm with you. I do like the Rangers side here. I wrote them up in the picks article. Top stacks tool, as you mentioned, not coming in with much ownership, under 2% on the latest run on DraftKings that I saw. So it is Rangers 1 for me. I think Rangers 2 perfectly in play as well. But I want to get as many guys as I can on the power play against this Oilers team that is taking so many penalties. So Rangers top line for me, nothing from the Edmonton side.
Yep, agreed. Coming up after us, we have Owner's Box Live with Greg at 4:30. NBA Live before lock at 6:30 with Eric Lindquist and Matt Bellman, and then NFL Showdown Live before lock at 7:30 with Lofty and Neil. So if you're playing NBA, NFL, Owner's Box is NFL as well. Tune into those shows. Let's talk a little bit about defensemen here. There are a lot of power play quarterbacks that I want to play tonight. Who's your favorite?
Evan Bouchard is kind of interesting. I know I said I didn't have interest in the Edmonton Skaters. He only played like 18 minutes last game, but with Connor McDavid out, there are only so many guys that can actually carry the puck on this team, and Bouchard is pretty much at the top of the list behind Draisaitl, so don't mind him. Matheson's starting to get expensive at $6K, but he's still probably going to play 25 to 26 minutes, so I think he's fine. It's the mid-price guys that I like a lot more. I wrote up Noah Hannafin in the picks article. He'll be running the top power play unit for Calgary. Victor Hedman.
Power play. They ran power plays this morning. It's Uyghur on the top power play. They ran power plays this morning.
Oh, did they? Okay, I missed that. Still rather play Hannafin, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, the thing is, St. Louis, like you said, just doesn't take a lot of penalties. So I'd still rather play Hannafin because he brings more across the board. Noah Dobson, obviously, as long as Scott Mayfield's still out, there's a bunch of Islanders defensemen that are still in play. So Noah Dobson, Victor Hedman's under 6K on DraftKings. Miro Heiskanen's under 6K on DraftKings, both perfectly in play for me. For the cheaper guys, I'll say it every show until he gets priced up a little bit. Adam Larson for Seattle, 3,700 on DraftKings, going up against Carolina. Great opportunity to block a lot of shots. Marcus Pettersson, wrote him up in the picks article as well. He typically blocks a lot of shots for Pittsburgh. I think going up against Colorado, he's definitely a threat for the block bonus. So is Mario Ferraro for San Jose. He's a guy that's going to have to be blocking a lot of shots for the Sharks this season. Arbor Jacki for Montreal. They're still missing Caden Gooley. They're without David Savard. So it's going to be some ice time there for him. And I'll throw Thomas Harley again. Missed out on Thomas Harley night the other night for the Stars. Goal and assist. I hate that. I think I played him in 3 times already so far this season. Just didn't play him on Tuesday. It happens. But Thomas Harley, he's having a really good season for the Stars.
The one that I'll add, Travis Sanheim, 4K on DraftKings. He's been averaging 26 minutes a night this season. So
I'm glad you mentioned Travis Sanheim because I've been making a sample lineup. I had Detroit and Rangers 1 both in together. Joel Hofer, we'll get to goalies here in a second. Joel Hofer starting for St. Louis, have him. And I put Travis Sanheim in our sample lineup as well. So hopefully Philadelphia does something here tonight because if not, it's going to be a long night for me, I think. Or a short one, depending how you look at it.
Yeah, there's, plenty of movies you can watch. But yeah, let's get to goalies here. You talked about a little bit of Hofer. I don't even see him. But what's his price?
7K.
Oh, 7K. That's why I didn't see him. Oh, yeah. I actually prefer Hofer to Binnington. I know Binnington has a very good start to the season, but I think Hofer is better. Like Joey Decord, 6,900 interests me just on the fact that Carolina takes a ton of shots and volume is king. Gibson, if he starts and you start moving up a little bit, Carter Hart, I think is fine. Hellebuck obviously stands out. He hasn't been great though. And then you get into the expensive options, like there just isn't much like I don't really like spending up, but like Georgiev is fine. He's been great. Philip Gustafson's going to see a ton of shots. Anyone else you like him?
Yeah, Georgiev and Sorokin were like the two expensive two expensive goalies that I was kind of considering. I think I'm going to be going cheap in net again here tonight. I'm with you on Hofer. I think he takes over for Binnington eventually. Man, Gibson or Dostal, whoever starts for Anaheim, like I know it kind of sucks, but Boston's not scoring a ton so far this season. Like they're winning games, but it's not like they're winning them 6-1. They're winning them like 3-1, and even at like a 3-goal loss, Gibson can have a pretty good DFS night. So I don't mind whoever starts for Anaheim as well.
Yeah. Also, don't mind Igor. Like I saw a thing. Igor and Sorokin, they've been playing a lot of Xbox together, and they've both been off to a little bit of rough starts. Maybe cut out the Xbox, focus on goalies. But yeah, who are you looking for your hat trick pick?
Can't believe I'm doing this. This is going to be a brutal night for me. I'm going Slam Atkinson from the Philadelphia Flyers. Cam Atkinson.
I will say you are going all in, and you are doubling down and tripling down, and we'll have to face the music tomorrow because we have a show. One way or the other. Listen, everyone knows what's coming from me. Adam Fantilli.
Okay. I mean, if he gets a hat trick against my Habs, I mean, they'll be part of a trivia question for the rest of the time. So at least that's something. And
there will be a Fantilli jersey behind me instead of the Callahan one. I couldn't figure out how to hang the Brees Hall one. That made it look good, but it doesn't look good right now. Never mind. We'll be back tomorrow. We have a 6-game slate tomorrow. It's going to be nice to have a little bit of extra time talking about each game. 170 you in here. Make sure to smash that like button on the way out. It helps us out tremendously. And if you're thinking about going premium, make sure to click the link in the description below. That helps us out a ton. Come into the Discord, say what's up. We'll say what's up. Clayton will tell you the rules, and we will go from there. Good luck, everybody, tonight.
Good luck tonight, everyone.